All right, guys, welcome back. What's up? Bear down. This is going to be my series where I go through each individual position group and then give you my prediction for the 53-man roster. We'll do that before cut downs. We've got a month and a half, 2 months. We got 2 months. We got a dead period here. So we got a lot of time to do this. This is one of those where I wanted to spend more time, but I probably spent too much time as it is on it. So you'll see the nerdy analytical stuff. But I wanted to start with the defensive line. Number one, because of what Ben Johnson said yesterday in the press conference.
I didn't want to throw around names for no reason. Yeah, so I'd say defensively, the two guys I would tell you are Dom Robinson. He even without the pads on, he's done a great job of consistently speed rush up the field or countering back to the inside. He's done a really nice job there, and then of course he's got some special teams value that he takes a lot of pride in as well. And then
highlighting Dominic Robinson as a potential standout for that team, that gives me a lot of excitement. It gives me that's what I want to hear, because as I'm preparing, my biggest concern, and I said, remember back when we were doing the mock drafts? I know we want to forget about that period of time because it's almost as bad as right now with Rumor Central and the fake hypothetical trade rumors and free agent signing rumors and the dead period we're going to go. It's almost that bad. But when we're doing those mock drafts, defensive tackle, defensive end were priority. Like that was first round, second round. Those were and what did we end up doing? Tight end, wide receiver. And that's what we did. We're building this offense to be what the Lions were last year. Number one scoring offense in the league, 30 plus points per game. And if we do that, then the defense doesn't have as much pressure on them. But I have this nagging feeling, well, did the defense do enough? We picked up Grady Jarrett, picked up Dio Odengbo, who, remember, guys, I know we're excited. We paid him starter money, but he was a rotational backup in Indy, of all places, in Indy. So it's not like we're picking up a superstar defensive end, but then you got Austin Booker, who's clearly gained a little bit of lean muscle mass, and several of these guys have. And that's from the off-season workout that Ben Johnson has instilled. Hey, I want guys in the weight room. And I've mentioned that before. I love that because that's old school. That's high school football. That's, hey, you're not going to play unless you beef up, unless you get trimmed, unless you're showing the work. That doesn't show all your talent, but a talented, in shape, beefed up guy is going to be better than a talented not. You got to work on all aspects. So I love that aspect of it too. Is Austin Booker going to take that step? Those are all good questions to ask. But then when Dom Rob shows up in preseason, I get it. This is OTAs. This is minicamp. This does not equate to anything yet. So my whole premise is this is an offensive team for the first time, ever. Do you remember as a Bears fan when we've been offensive juggernaut? And that's what this team is built for. And there's no excuses at this point. Ben Johnson, offensive mind. Caleb Williams, generational rookie quarterback you can't miss on. All these wide receivers, we've beefed up the offensive line. You got Jonah Jackson, you got Drew Dahlman, you got Joe Tooney, combined with our the bookends that were decent. And then you added Ozzie Trapillo in the second round as well. So this team is built offensively. My concern is on the defense. And I usually do this. I usually spoil a video by showing the outcome in the beginning. I'm going to give my prediction at the end of the 53-man roster, but this is what I'll show you later, what we're going to go through. This is the nerdy, analytical. This is the Adam stuff. This is the Bear Down Sports, nerdy, geeky stuff that we're going to have. Sorry, guys. If you don't like that stuff, turn away. But we're going to go through all of this. Defense, run defense, pass defense, how these guys ranked. And it's not quite on paper where you want an absolute elite defense to be. And you have to hope that part of this is Dennis Allen going to bring the best out of these guys? I don't know. Andrew Billings, a lot of upside. Jervon Dexter improving every year. Zach Pickens, certain spots really showing some good. Really showing some good. Chris Williams should even make the roster. Grady Jarrett, huge addition. Austin Booker, Montez Sweat, Dio Odengbo, Dominic Robinson. Now, let's jump right into this thing. All right, so right off the bat, new regime. Last year's in the past, but a lot of the team has stayed congruent. Most of the team is actually returning. Almost everything on defense is the same, at least as far as starters go, other than Dio Odengbo and Grady Jarrett. Other than that, You're rotating out Jack Sanborn for Ruben Hippolyte, who, they're going to play a limited number of snaps because Kyler Gordon's going to play most. And we'll go over that in a second about how teams have turned into the nickel package more than the base in the last decade. But other than that, it's pretty much the same defense. The offense is almost entirely the same, other than switching Keenan Allen out for Luther Burden and the offensive line. So it's an increased offense, as we've talked about. But then here's the defense is what I'm worried about here. 23 points per game allowed, 13th in the NFL. That's not terrible. Yards per game, 354. That is bad. So even though we allowed a lot of yards and a lot of rushing yards, especially the points per game, we stopped them in the red zone a lot. The Bears did a good job of limiting the damage, which kept them in games, which allowed us to have several opportunities for come from behind victories, to be spoiled a couple of times. This team easily could have been, 8-9, 9-8 instead of 5-12. It really could. It was real close to being on the verge there of a 9-8 team. So points or passing yards a game, 217th against the defense, which is not terrible. Turnovers, we did really well, 10th, top 10 in the league in turnovers. There's the offense. You can see how much they struggled other than turnovers. Caleb did a good job of limiting turnovers, but is that the downfall, though? Did he not get to push the ball as much? Did he not get to really air out his deep ball? Did he not get to be Caleb Williams because this offense, because this team, because this coaches, I say that plural because we know what he went through with multiple. I mean, it's just a nightmare situation for a rookie quarterback. So again, not focusing on the offense on this video. That'll come, but I'm not as worried about the offenses as I am the defense. Okay, I know this is small on your screen. I apologize. All this is on the left is PFF's base and nickel package for us. And just to break it down, sometimes I like to do the dummy down for just refresher for some people, whatever. Take it with a grain of salt if you're a football savant or if you're, got the advanced level of football knowledge. But your defensive front this upcoming year, teams are using nickel packages more than anything. So you're going to see Kyler Gordon. So I'm not as worried about the fact that we're relying on a rookie, questionable fourth round draft pick in Ruben Hippolyte. I think that's something that you don't need to worry too much about because we're going to be playing nickel package 2/3 of the time. You're going to be playing with TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds and Kyler Gordon in there on the nickel package most of the time. So teams use a nickel defense to counter passing offenses, which the league has completely turned into a passing offense, a wide zone. It's how the league has gone. In fact, if you look at the bottom here, you can read over all this if you want. But the nickel defense is used in 2024, 67% of defensive snaps. And that's how it goes against the Bears. It wasn't as much because the Bears couldn't get things going. Anyways, in 2019, half a decade ago, it was used 55% of defensive snaps. In 2013, just a little over a decade ago, 45. So you can see how much the league is changing from a run first to a passing style of league. And that's going to affect how the Bears play. So I like that our focus was retaining Kyler Gordon. I like that we didn't break the bank on, Jack Sanborn didn't go for cheap. And he went for cheap. Sorry, he went for cheap to the Cowboys. They see something in Ruben Hippolyte. And the only thing you can say for that is there's several interviews where they talked about, Ruben Hippolyte talked about them telling him not to be afraid to hit the holes. When you're referring to hitting the holes, you're talking about a linebacker who's going to come up and smash these holes to stop the run. Stop the run. That's what the Bears' biggest weakness is this last year. Teams ran against the Bears 47.2% of the time, tied for 7th most in the NFL. So clearly it was a weakness for us. We know that from advanced metrics as well. And from showing you 2 seconds ago, our defense, 28th in run defense, 136.3 yards per game on the ground, and teams were only 217 in the air, which is a very unbalanced approach. That's not typical for the NFL. So they were running against us, and it was working. So let's look at this run defense from last year, and I'm going to use these throughout the entire video. This is the nerdy analytical stuff. This is compiled by me. This is from PFF stats or advanced metrics that I use as well. And you'll see down here the key. The blue is the top 1/4% of the league. So out of 102 defensive tackles, played an average of 6 run defensive snaps per game. 106. So if they had 136 snaps, they were included. I included Zach Pickens because he was He's on the Bears. So I included him even though he's just below that. But if you compare it to league averages, top percent is this dark blue color. So Jervon Dexter against the run had a top quarter of the league run or total defense. This is total defense. I apologize. This is running snaps they played against the run. This is run defensive grade. This is stop percentage. Now, a stop is a high leverage situation where you're stopping them from getting a first down on third or fourth down. That's typically, I mean, there's a more advanced way to describe a stop, but that's what a stop is in a nutshell. Okay. Depth of tackle. This is the average depth of tackle and missed tackle percentage on running plays. Okay, so there's tackling and then there's running play tackling. So they're two different things. But so top 1/4% is that dark blue. The upper half, between upper half and quarter, is going to be this light blue color. There's obviously, I'm not going to measure metrics of run snaps, so those are just white, they don't matter. And then the lower half, between half and quarter, is this light pink color, and then the bottom fourth of the league is this dark. And you can see the big concern I have with Chris Williams, and this is why I keep bringing up Chris Williams on the run. A lot of red there, a lot of red. Zach Pickens, I'll get to this later, but Zach Pickens to me is just an unrefined product. There's some good and there's some bad. He doesn't miss the tackles, but he's not winning against his blockers. So he's losing out, and there needs is this a situation where it's him, or is it a situation of people being injured, not being put in a big situation? A team effort. Obviously, he's not doing his part to completely win it, like Byron Cowart, who I wish we would have retained. And I do believe the Bears did offer to retain him. They tried to, and he didn't. He went to the Jets, and then the Bears went ahead and extended the restricted free agency to Chris Williams. He didn't have an option. He was forced to stay with the Bears. I believe that's how it happened, in my opinion. This is not me reporting stuff, but if you're looking at these things, why would the Bears not retain Byron Cowart over Chris Williams, especially in the run defense? That's just where I stand, which is where I left my concerns. Where is this team running with moving forward? Well, we know we went ahead and picked up two important pieces, Grady Jarrett, and you look across those dark blues. This is why the Bears picked up Grady Jarrett. Some people have concerns of his age. His production has not dipped. I'm not worried about that. I actually think this is a very solid pickup. Is it the best pickup we could have done? I don't know. I really don't. I really wanted us to go after Calais Campbell, but there's the age concern. If you want age concern, that's age concern. Calais Campbell's bringing on 40 years old. Grady Jarrett still has some juice left in the tank, and we're looking to rebuild long term. So 3-year contract, missed tackles a little bit more than you would like, but his run stopping, very solid. Average depth of tackle, you've brought in someone with Andrew Billings that can stop it. Jervon Dexter, his average depth of tackle, I believe, is an anomaly. I believe that is off base for him. I don't believe this is something you'll see this year at 3.7 yards. I think because Andrew Billings was gone, because we didn't have more help, we didn't have deeper depth on the defensive line, that's why you have an issue. Byron Cowart was not a permanent position stopper there. He was not. He's good. He's not. I mean, these are limited snaps here. This is limited opportunities there for Byron Cowart. So brought him in, then brought in Shamar Stewart, which should help solidify this defensive line a little bit. So as you make that bigger and you take out the guys that are gone, as I'm looking at this, and I've already spoiled it. I took Chris Williams out of here because I don't see him making the 53-man roster, in my opinion. I just don't. So on run plays, you're probably going to see Grady Jarrett and Jervon Dexter be your primary, with Andrew Billings on goal line stance type situations. It'll be interesting to see there, but missed tackles a little bit higher for Andrew Billings, and stop percentage not nearly as good. I think Andrew Billings will be a little bit better here too. I think these three are your solid three against the run. Andrew Billings, Jervon Dexter, and Grady Jarrett, with those two being your primary 1-2. Shamar Turner and Zach Pickens being mixed in. Just sprinkle in just a little bit of those two guys. All right, so let's move on to the defensive ends. The other half of the defensive line. And you've got Montez Sweat, who by all means is the leader of this defensive line. So missed tackle percentage, very, very solid. Average depth of tackle below a yard is among the top in all of football. So as a defensive end, he contains the edge and he gets pressure. He is what you want in a defensive end. He's solid. He's nailed down. He's good. You got him. His stop percentage, I believe, is a combination of not having another elite guy. Grady Jarrett and Andrew Billings being back will help those numbers on his stop percentage come down. You see DeMarcus Walker, Austin Booker, Darrell Taylor All good on their stop percentage. So a limited sample size for these two guys. DeMarcus Walker, solid against the run. Is he a top tier player? I believe we really replaced him with Dio Ndingbo. Very similar style of player. When you look at it on paper, taking DeMarcus Walker out, he's still a free agent. So clearly the league doesn't see him as this elite guy either. And replacing with Dio Ndingbo, what you're looking at here is the big difference is that depth of tackle. The Bears were one of the worst in stopping the run in 2024. Well, how do you stop that? You bring someone who's good at stopping against the run. Dio Ndingbo. Missed tackle percentage, a little bit high. I think that's the style of running game or running defense that the Colts were running last year. They had a lot of sacks and not a lot of contain. So I think this will come down a little bit. It's not like he's not a disciplined player, and he can move onto the inside as well a little bit. Austin Booker, I believe these numbers are actually very solid for a developmental rookie defensive end. We all know he came into the league a year before everyone recommended, advised, said that he should. We ended up drafting me in the 5th round because we got a steal, 4th round because we got a steal out of him. The ability to pick up a player who, by all means, had every metric and just needed to fill out his frame and get another year of experience. We got that in the league, and these aren't terrible numbers for getting some experience in the league. I think he did a solid job. Where does that leave us on our run defense? Going into pass next, but on the run defense, I think we've improved on our average depth of tackle. We're going to be able to stop them and we're going to minimize the depth of runs, which was the number one need we had. And adding Dio Dangbo and Grady Jarrett really helps that. The rest is going to be up to scheming. How is Dennis Allen going to use these guys? And we know from several interviews, it's going to be more of straight line, push them back, collapse the pocket inside out. So it's going to be on Gervon Dexter, Grady Jarrett, Andrew Billings, with the outside guys, Montez Sweat and Dio Odengbo, creating that collapse in the pocket after the inside gets the pressure. So how it'll come to be, I don't know. On the run defense, should be able to stop, maintain their guys, and get a better average depth of tackle, which was the biggest concern we have. On the pass rush, let's see if we can get a little bit more, because the pass rush wasn't terrible. In fact, by every metric, we probably should have had more sacks than we did, which is a little bit confusing to me, because you look at these, every one of these guys were above league average in creating pressure and getting sacks, hits, or hurries. This one's my metric. So the difference here, PRPs is PFF's metric for measuring quality pressures. So taking more weight for your sacks and your hits. My sack, hit, hurry metric is just telling you how often they get into the quarterback, how often they got a pressure. So SHH means how many plays between when they got a pressure. Andrew Billings, 9.71, Gervon Dexter, 8.67, Zach Pickens, 9.5. But none of them, generating real huge numbers that made you say, wow, this guy's the most elite of the elite. In fact, Zach Pickens' pass rush grade was lower on PFF, even though all these metrics are higher. The pass rush win rate, 12.5%, was the only one that was above 10%. Gervon Dexter right there, too. And Andrew Billings just yesterday in his press conference talked about how his focus last year was on getting more pressure. Now he's going to round out his game a little bit more this year. He actually was a little bit sly, I should say. I was going to say shady, but it wasn't shady. Sly with the way he was wording it on some of the things they're going to do. I think he's excited. I think he's excited about what this defense can offer with Dennis Allen. All right, so the one guy that's gone is Byron Cowart. Replace him with Grady Jarrett. Not a significant difference between the two. The pressure rate's very similar. Win rate a little bit higher. I don't think that's the biggest reason they got Grady Jarrett. I think it was for his overall defensive leadership presence, as well as his ability to help stop the run a little bit more, because we were really lacking on stopping the run. All right, onto the defensive ends, and I believe this is why you see DeMarcus Walker gone. His pressure rates were the only weakness on the team, and you see who took more snaps than anybody at pass rush. DeMarcus Walker. He had the most out of anybody, and his pressure rates were below league average. His sack, hit, hurry, below league average. Austin Booker, as a rookie, I'm going to forgive a lot of this because I really do see that as a developmental year. You might say that's homerism in me. You might say I'm not really looking at a clear lens at this team with these things. But I do believe he needed that year to put on 15 pounds of muscle to get experience, and then to be able to come back and have that rookie legs out from underneath you, have the game slow down a little bit. And I'm excited to see what Austin Booker can do this year. But here's your change. Here's your difference. You got DeMarcus Walker gone, who by all means is very similar to Dio Odengbo. This is what I'm talking about. Both of them kind of that rotational backup type of guy. Why we needed to get a pass rusher, a solid guy in the first couple rounds. And I'm not saying the Bears screwed up, because you hear accounts coming out of other places like, where did Shamar Stewart go? Cincinnati. You see reports where he's just walking around without stretching. He's holding out. Different things. I don't know if there was someone that stood out. Maybe the Bears just didn't have it fall into their laps, and we knew they took best player available, which is why we took Luther Burden. So maybe they had someone on the radar, possibly. But then we're hearing the good stuff about Dominic Robinson, which really makes me excited. But this is the one area of concern for me. Those defensive ends generating pressure. We know Montez Sweat, both accounts by my metric and PFF's, he's among the best in the league, the very best in the league. Generating pressure, his win rate 15.2%. That Odengbo as a starter, we're gonna have to see how it goes. In my opinion, that's how I'm taking it with Dio. I like the signing. I think he gives us the type of style that Dennis Allen wants, but his pressure rates just haven't been there. So I need to see more pressure out of him, and I need to see Austin Booker take the next step up as well. So Daryl Taylor's gone too. I don't know. I didn't X him out as well. He should be X'd out too. But here's your team for next year, and that's why I'm a little bit concerned. We're going to be a heavy offensive team and sprinkle in the defense a little bit. Now, these are all 53-man roster guys. So there's Chris Williams, there's Shamar Turner, Jonathan Ford, all in there. I don't think Jonathan Ford and Chris Williams will make the 53-man roster. And then Dio Odengbo, Dominic Robinson right there. You can see his metrics. You see that win rate. That's what I'm really excited about. Now, he didn't qualify. Look at how little snaps they used him last year. And I was screaming for this at the end of last year. I was screaming for us to use him. If you guys watch the channel, I was screaming for us to use him a little bit more as we came down the stretch, because we weren't going to make the playoffs, and there was enough good that I saw in the 2-week stretch where we did play him mid-season, where I was like, let's play him. Let's see what we've got with him. And this is what I'm talking about with that. So here's broken down by week, each of your primary defensive line guys for this year coming in. So obviously Montez Sweat. I should have put names here. I apologize, guys. You can see by the pictures, though. Montez Sweat, Andrew Billings, Jervon Dexter, Austin Booker, Dominic Robinson, and Zach Pickens. Okay. So here's where they, kind of combined with each other. Here was your starting of the season. I'm not including the guys that aren't here anymore. So DeMarcus Walker's not on here. That's really the primary main guy. But so these are the guys that interacted with each other. And you can see as Dom Rob got an opportunity here midseason, when Montez Sweat went out and when Andrew Billings went out, Dom Rob got a chance to play. Those two games actually were very solid against Arizona and New England. Very solid. And then he was healthy scratched for 4 weeks in between there as Montez Sweat came back. And then the end of the season didn't have the same, tenacity, ferociousness, zest, zeal. We'll see if Dennis Allen can bring that out of him, because that's one thing I'm really excited to see with that. These are just PFF grades, guys. Defensive, run defense, tackle. So this is the run first, and then we'll move over to the pass rush. So here's the pass rush. And you can see same thing, solid games here by Dom Rob in those 2 weeks. So here's the pass rush. And I know it's a lot on your screen. This is more so you guys can pause it, check it out by game if you want to, how these guys did. But I want to show you why I'm including Zach Pickens over Chris Williams, because I think this is the true spot that's going to come to the final roster spot on the defensive line. I think this is where it comes down to, is these two guys. So first of all, here is Chris Williams. Here is Zach Pickens. And to me, Chris Williams is that guy that's going to be your perennial consistent defensive tackle 5 on your team. I mean, that's what he is. He doesn't show flashes of phenomenal. He'll have a good play here or there, but it's nothing like brilliance. Zach Pickens is athletic strengths. He has bursts, and he has plays where he makes you think, man, there's a reason this guy was picked in the beginning. I mean, the very first pick in the 3rd round. So you can say 2nd round, 3rd round pick, 64th overall pick in the 3rd round. You see Zach Pickens here, 9.31 RAS score compared to Chris Williams. He's taller, a little bit less weight, similar bench, but his 40's quicker, 20. More importantly, his 10-yard split, his burst, his vert, his broad, his athleticism, his 3-cone, everything about him says he's a better athlete. And the reason I like Zach Pickens more, and is not because, I mean, we're talking about defensive tackle 5 here. We're not talking about defensive tackle 2 or 3. We're talking about who gives you the biggest opportunity moving forward. Well, you can see it on their charts here. Pretty consistent. I mean, one game against Washington where he got some snaps, and this isn't even taking into account how many snaps they had because this could be a limited sample size. Other than that, pretty consistent to a mediocre to below mediocre player. I think everybody could agree on that. At the end of the year here, tackling grades pretty piss poor, honestly. And there's a couple games, especially the Detroit game, where I saw a couple plays with Chris Williams where wrap the freak up. Can't afford this crap. With Zach Pickens, you see bursts of greatness and then, declining in bursts. I think it's just a thing where you have a developmental player. So Chris Williams, who is retained on a restricted tenure, 3.263 million, zero guaranteed. So if we cut him, we save $3.263 million. It's just plain and simple like that. So people say, well, we won't cut Chris Williams because it'll hurt the salary cap. I don't know what you're talking about with that. Zach Pickens he's got 2 years left on the contract, 1.7 million annual on those, with only 596 dead cap over the 2 years. That'd be split up as 298 per year, 298,000 per year. So it wouldn't kill us. Save 1.5 million roughly this year, 1.5 million next year if you're looking at overall savings over the 2-year span. But Chris Williams saves us more money, is more established, and doesn't show as much flash or burst with his athleticism. So I'm more interested in 2 very similar players, though. You see their run defensive grades here. Zach Pickens a little better at stopping the run. His stop percentage is a little higher. A little better at missed tackle percentage, so a little more solid there. Little better his pass defense as well. You see his pressure grades. His PRP a little bit higher. His sack hit hurry a little bit more frequently. But Chris Williams is more of the seasoned vet. So to me, this is an obvious one. We take Zach Pickens. We continue to work with him as a rookie. You save the $3.263 million in cap on Chris Williams, and it saves us a little bit more money. Could we go out and sign another defensive lineman with that $3.263 million? Absolutely. You probably sign DeMarcus Walker with that money. I don't think the Bears want DeMarcus Walker, but you're going to sign a mid to low level guy if you're not happy with these guys as we go through the preseason. So I think it's going to look like this as we go into this is my prediction. So here's my prediction, the 53-man prediction. I think you're going to have Montez Sweat, Jervon Dexter, Grady Jarrett, Dio Dangbo, Austin Booker, Andrew Billings, Shamar Turner, and Dominic Robinson, especially after the vote of confidence and the endorsement by Ben Johnson last week. I think those 8 are saved. Now, I think this is your biggest battle right here. Sorry, there's the computer with a little update. Zach Pickens and Chris Williams, and I do have Zach Pickens for all the reasons I just showed you right there, being the one who makes it. Daniel Hardy, I believe, makes it as a defensive end / outside linebacker / special teamer. And they did mention Dominic Robinson's special team ability this last press conference as well. So I do think it's 10 on the defensive line, but I think Daniel Hardy will be used more for special teams and more as an outside linebacker / defensive end on unique sets. So that's why I have the DEOLB there. Possible practice squad guys. I think someone will pick Chris Williams up. I don't think he's a trash player. I just don't think he makes this Bears squad. I think somebody will probably pick him up, Zach Pickens, for a league minimum contract. And then the rest of these guys, I think, will just be gone. Cole Nelson, Gio Paez, and Xavier Carlton. It's not that I'm down on them. I just think we're at a place where we don't need unless one of them really stands out. And we'll revisit this as we get into, obviously, the preseason. All these guys especially, will get a shot to play and try to prove themselves. We'll see what they learn and what they do. And this could change, obviously, but this is before we see the preseason and before we get into that. So before those 3 games happen, I see us retaining Jamari Cromont and Jonathan Ford on the practice squad. So that's it, guys. That's the defensive line overview and my predictions for the 53-man roster. Let me know what you guys think I got wrong, because this is one that's conflicting right now with analysts. And I feel like I put a lot of work into this one. I really believe that last roster spot's going to come down to Chris Williams or Zach Pickens. And for the reasons I showed you, I do think Zach Pickens shows more burst upside potential that working with Dennis Allen right there, working with Dennis Allen, I think they're going to have an opportunity to work with a rookie that showed a lot of upside at South Carolina and has a lot of burst, a lot of athleticism. And I think that's going to be useful. I think they'll want to pack a few more pounds onto him. I'm going to address the whole character concern thing, that's one of the things that got brought up this last season. There were some people, it made no sense because there's not a single thing you can find about Zach Pickens that shows character concern or work ethic. In fact, the only interviews you hear from him is, I'm trying to learn from Big Bill, Andrew Billings. I'm trying to get my opportunity when it comes, and I just have to keep going to work. I mean, that was his whole mentality this last year. So I'm excited for him and the opportunity. I was a little down on people like Dom Robb a couple of years ago. I was high on Dom Robb last year. I'm getting really high after what I heard from Ben Johnson on Dom Robb now. And I think there's a lot of upside for guys to prove themselves. Man, I really hope something works out for one of these defensive ends to become elite. I hope they're right about Dio Dangbo. I hope they're right that he can become a genuine bona fide starter that plays better than DeMarcus Walker did. Because that's what kind of money we paid him. We paid him, $15-16 million type of money, which you got to have a good starter out of that. I realize it's not 25, not $30 million money like you're giving, your top guys in the league, but it's still big money, and you need production out of that kind of money. So I want to see someone step up. I really do feel good though about where Gervon Dexter's going, his body change. His leadership, how he's bringing some of these younger guys, Shamar Turner in and helping him, and Andrew Billings and his mentality about upping his game again this year. Who are you most leave it in the comments? Who are you most excited about on the defensive line this year? It's obviously Montez Sweat, but if there's someone else, Gervon Dexter, outside of those two, who's your most exciting guy to see? And more than anything, I think this defensive line just needs to stay healthy. I think that if they stay healthy and they get some consistency, I think this could be a really solid. I don't think we're going to be top tier. I don't think we'll be top 10 defensive line this year, but it could be very solid, improving and then adding some more pieces next year. I mean, safety and defensive linemen are probably our biggest need this next year. Defense or the offensive line, set. The quarterback, running back, we can use some work with next year. So running back, safeties, and defensive line next year. Maybe linebacker are going to be your biggest things. We'll do a mock draft for next year after we get through this whole thing. We got lots of time, but I do appreciate you guys tuning in. If you haven't hit the like button by now, please do that. It means a lot to me. If you haven't subscribed, I don't know why you haven't. You're not going to get this. A lot of places just use ChatGPT. They just bring their headlines. They'll give you headline stuff. I'm going to try to break this down for you and give you the most in-depth stuff on the Bears that I can. That's what this channel was built around. That's why I slowed it back down a little bit again. We're going to get more into breaking down like this. Read back through this, go back through this video, pause it, check some of that stuff out. It's good stuff to see. It's good information. So I appreciate you guys tuning in, making this channel possible and being part of it. Till next time, the Bears. And I got to line this up. Sorry. And bear down. The Bears.